潮玩飛鏢係由 Multicultural Dart Association 贊助播出。All About Darts is brought to you by the Multicultural Dart Association. 潮玩飛鏢 All About Darts。
歡迎嚟到新一集嘅潮玩飛鏢 All About Darts。今集呢，我哋一位極度重量級嘅嘉賓係嚟自加拿大，而呢位嘅嘉賓呢，更加呢喺飛鏢壇裏邊嚟講呢，有好多建樹而奠定到今時今刻北美洲飛鏢界嘅發展。Welcome to a new episode of This Week. Tonight we have a very, very special guest. This gentleman actually have written and have witnessed how the dart community have grown in the past decades in the North America. And Peter, good evening.
Oh,
good evening, Bob.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce Bob Seneve now. Bob Seneve is one of the eminent dart players. I hate to tell everybody this, but we've known each other over 40 years.
Whoa.
And Bob is one of the superb dart players in southern Ontario in Canada. And he's a professional dart player and that type of quality that comes from him. And he's had some trials and tribulations in darts that we will explore a little bit later on. But he is not only an excellent dart player, but he's a gentleman too, and I think I'm privileged to have him as a friend.
Wow, OK， 原來今集我哋嘉賓咧Bob Seneve 咧，其實係嚟自 Ontario 嘅，更加咧原來同 Peter 咧已經認識咗大家咧40年，咁更加咧係一位專業嘅飛鏢手。喺過往佢啲40年飛鏢嘅生涯裏邊嚟講咧，佢對飛鏢壇呢個建樹咧係舉足輕重。我哋今日咧將會同佢分享更加多嘅 story。Welcome Bob to our show. Good evening.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to be here.
That's right. I've heard a lot of stories about you, and from Peter, from Bong, and even though from Google, we have learned a lot about you. So, Bob, how many years have you played darts yourself, and how did it start?
Well, actually, I started playing when I was about 25, 26 years ago. So that's you're like 40 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it started when my wife's uncle talked us into going out to a local mixed league. And one thing led to another. Had success quickly in the local league, and just progressed. Everybody that gets into the sport, they sort of always want to see how far they can improve or how far they can go competition wise. And so, I took little steps and gradually started playing, provincial, national, and so forth.
Mm-hmm. I see. So it has been around 40 years that you have been playing.
Yeah, Actually, it was 1973 when I picked up my darts first.
Whoa. Wow, okay, I see. Let me do a little bit of translations for our listeners out there. Bob, 我哋今日嘅特別嘉賓啊 Bob Seneve 咧，其實咧喺飛鏢壇咧已經有超過40多年嘅時間，喺大約25歲、26歲左右嘅時間咧開始玩啦。咁而最早期咧，當然嚟講，佢同大部分嘅飛鏢手一樣啦，都係以一個換票嘅性質去投放時間喺呢一個運動裏邊嚟講啦。咁但係慢慢從而興趣多咗啦，佢就開始慢慢 pick up 而開始晉升緊一啲飛鏢嘅大賽。So Bob, what time and when did you first started to play darts competitively?
Well, when about the third year after I started playing, I started traveling to small tournaments that they had back in the mid to late 70s to compete in like men's doubles and teams events, which what they had back then, and then gradually they formed the National Dart Federation of Canada. Mm-hmm. And so I started competing in Toronto on that, and I think that was in 77 or 78 that National Dart Federation of Canada was formed, I believe.
I see. So you have been playing 3 years, and then you went into competitively. And I was when I was Googling, and I also heard the stories from Bong and Peter that you have been playing full time for quite a long time, right?
Well, actually, I never did approach the game on a full-time professional basis.
Mm-hmm.
From about 78 through to 92, I traveled. I would what I called semi-professionally because I still ran a heating business, mm-hmm. and so between traveling, I was rushing back home to look after my heating customers and obviously air conditioning in the summertime as well.
I see. Still be able to earn doing something flexible. Let me do a little bit translations for our listeners first. 原來阿 Bob 咧，其實喺大約佢參加咗呢個飛鏢嘅運動咧，3年到嘅時間咧，佢已經開始晉身玩一個飛鏢嘅大賽啦。咁而喺78年到92年之間呢，佢更加咧係穿州過省啦，喺北美洲唔同嘅地方啦，甚至乎去到歐洲嘅地方咧，去參加一啲大型嘅飛鏢比賽嘅。咁當其時嚟講咧，佢一年咧參加嘅比賽咧，亦係一啲都唔少，係數以十計、幾十計啦。咁當然嚟講咧，因為同一時間亦都要維持生計啦。佢自己本身嚟講咧係從事呢個冷暖氣嘅公司啦，咁亦都係佢自己公司啦。咁所以有比較多嘅彈性咧，佢可以參與。咁但係咧，正正咧喺呢段時間嚟講咧，佢見證住啲70、80年代嘅時候咧，飛鏢壇嘅一路嘅發展嘅喎。
Bob, my memory of that time tells me that the environment would not really support professional dart players. The money wasn't there in the competitions, and the sponsorship wasn't there. So, to be a semi-pro, everybody seemed to have a regular job and then play darts on the weekend or whenever they could manage to get some time away from work.
Yeah, like back in the time when I actually jumped up to number 4 in the world, I think it was in '86. At that time, I was approached by Unicorn in England to sign a contract with them, but under the contract I would have to move to England. And with family here, I was just not willing to uproot myself to that extent. And as far as making a full-time living from darts, you definitely, at that point in time, would have to live in England.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you certainly would have to change the venue, wouldn't you? It just wasn't here.
That's for sure.
Wow. Okay, that's a very impressive story. 原來咧，阿 Bob 咧喺1986年嘅時間咧，佢已經攀升到全球咧飛鏢界裏邊嚟講嘅 number 4第4啊。咁當其時嚟講咧，有一個非常之大嘅飛鏢品牌咧叫 Unicorn 啦，曾幾何時咧亦都 approach 過佢咧去希望佢可以簽約啦，作為佢嘅一個特約嘅標手啦。但係奈何咧，其中一個細節裏邊嚟講咧，係必須要阿 Bob 咧係留守喺英國嗰邊參加一啲唔同嘅比賽啦，甚至乎代表作為呢個 Unicorn 嘅代言人。咁當其時喺家庭同埋事業，或者係咁講，家庭同埋飛鏢兩邊嚟講咧，佢作為一個取捨之後咧，佢就選擇咗家庭，因為佢唔想將佢家庭咧留低咗喺加拿大，然後自己隻身去到英國。咁所以當其時咧，佢就放棄咗呢個合約啦，呢個贊助合約啦。其實咧70、80年代甚至乎90年代嚟講咧，一班好有熱誠嘅飛鏢手咧，佢哋如果想得到一啲資助咧，其實非常之困難嘅。只有一啲非常之大嘅牌子，佢睇到你攀升到去頭嗰5位，甚至乎可能係 minimum requirement 頭嗰10位。佢哋先會開始 approach 你，希望可以贊助你。而嗰贊助嗰個規條咧，亦都非常之有要求嘅。例如你將要喺咩地方參加啦，等等。咁喺北美洲呢個地方咧，我哋叫做飛鏢一個比較新嘅地方咧，其實咧佢嘅贊助商咧非常之少啊。而兼且嚟講咧，亦都冇乜公司咧係願意投放時間啦或者金錢咧係贊助一班對飛鏢有熱誠嘅人。所以作為一個 semi-professional， 即係換句話講，半業餘嘅人嚟講咧，其實係一啲都唔容易嘅當其時。
Bob, what is this North American Professional Dart Alliance Dart Player Association as a president?
When did I start that?
Yes, what is this NAPDA, please?
It was about, actually, I brought it back. Back in the mid-'80s, the dart players back then, mid to late '80s, they tried to form the organization, and unfortunately, all the players that were involved at that point in time, were traveling and so forth, and didn't have the time to dedicate to it to try and make it work. So back about 3 or 4 years ago, I started with toying with the idea of trying to actually bring it back into existence, and it has progressed considerably. Originally, it was just an alliance, and then the Dart Players Association for North America joined it, and now we're all under one roof as the North American Professional Darts Alliance, Dart Players Association. That took place this past year.
Who do you cater to? Is it just the professional player or the semi-professional, or what's the intent and purpose of the organization?
Well, the intent and purpose is to try and improve the image of the sport of darts beyond just a pub game, so that the image will get to the point where you get to sponsors outside of, say, the normal sponsorship avenues that are available right now, like beer, raise the profile of darts so that we can, hopefully in the not too distant future, get car dealerships like Cadillac or Chrysler.
Well, we're certainly with you there, Bob.
And the image has to improve so that the general public will follow it more readily. I know darts is followed extensively by the darting community itself, but get away from the darting community itself. Most people view it as a pub game where it's more driven around the bars and so forth, where hopefully the image will change so that it can be a cleaner, more professional image. That's what we're aiming for.
I see. Let me do a little translation for our listeners out there. 正如阿 Bob 咧，除咗一個專業標手之外咧，更加咧係一個組織嘅 president 一個主席。咁呢個組織叫咩名咧？就係 North American Professional Dart Alliance。咁其實係我哋中文叫做北美洲專業飛鏢手聯會啦。咁其實係什麼嘅組織，而係點解會成立咧？其實最早期嚟講咧，阿 Bob 喺80年代同一班有將飛鏢呢樣嘢帶入一個專業 level 嘅一班朋友咧，一齊成立咗。但係奈何嚟講咧，因為大家各有各忙啦，而沉寂咗起嚟。直至到3至4年前嚟講啦，Bob 重新將呢一個嘅組織咧，令到更加多人認識。藉住呢個組織咧，呢個叫做 NAPDA 嘅組織 North American Professional Dart Alliance 嘅組織咧，係希望可以更加多人咧認知到飛鏢呢個運動嘅專業性啦，甚至乎認知到飛鏢呢個運動嚟講咧，如果當你成為專業標手裏邊，你可以從啲咩途徑係得到一啲唔同嘅贊助等等。因為其實咧，作為一個專業飛鏢手啦，無論喺70年代、80年代、90年代，甚至乎今時今刻咧，其實真係唔係咁多得到咁多嘅贊助商，甚至乎咧，佢哋每一年咧要去到北美洲唔同嘅地方啦、亞洲嘅地方啦、歐洲嘅地方啦，去參加啲比賽啦，其實嗰個費用咧係一啲都唔少嘅。咁所以藉住呢一個阿 Bob 嘅作為 president 嘅一個組織咧，係希望可以更加多人認知，而可以更加多人得到更加多人嘅 recognition， 更加多公司嘅 recognition， 而贊助一班有心甚至乎有熱誠喺飛鏢界裏邊發展呢個運動嘅朋友。
Bob, what advice would you give a young, aspiring professional dart player? And would that advice differ from steel tips or soft tips?
Well, actually, any new player that comes into the sport itself, I've always firmly believed that you have to learn to have fun with the sport first before you can progress to be competitive. Because once you lose the fun of the sport, you lose your focus and your drive to improve on your game itself. That's, to me, the number one is learn to love the sport first, then become competitive with it. If you gear everything in the sport itself around winning, you will get discouraged very quickly. You have to learn to love the sport first before you can get good at it.
That's excellent advice.
That's right. 正如阿 Bob 所講啦，如果一班新進嘅飛鏢手，甚至乎想投放係時間喺飛鏢呢個運動發展嘅朋友咧，其實我覺得第一個 tips 咧，佢會俾大家嘅咧就係你要愛呢個運動，你要中意呢個運動，因為當你愛呢個運動或者中意呢個運動嘅時間咧，中間無論係遇到啲咩挫折咧，你都會可以迎刃而解啦。咁其實呢一個 advice 咧，除咗個 Bob 之外咧，我哋之前咧亦都聽咗唔少嘅飛鏢手啦，嘅其中 number one 嘅座右銘。咁其實因為作為一個運動嘅愛好者咧，如果你一啲都唔中意呢個運動嚟講咧，中間咧你會遇到好多 ups and downs 啦，你嗰個嘅 mindset 咧，亦都好難去調節得到。
華語電台着數多，
一卡在手冇錯過。
Canadian Chinese Radio Jet to Card Special。
O'Connor Dental Care 全科牙醫服務，緊急護理、美白、種牙、箍牙專家，憑質素卡向9折，地址1871號 O'Connor Drive， 電話416-759-0895。
For all your dental needs plus savings on denture whitening braces and wisdom tooth extraction, visit O'Connor Dental Care, 1871 O'Connor Drive, Toronto, 416-759-0895。
Tikka Tikka 印度美食，美味燒雞、傳統咖喱、燒薄餅，食過翻尋味。另有純素食食譜，地址喺6001號14街，電話905-2016-767，追數卡享有85折優惠。
Tikka Tikka Indian Delight at 6001 14th Avenue, Markham. 905-201-6767. Jitso card 15% off.
追數卡申請及查詢電話416-496-9633。華語電台着數多，一級製手冇錯過。
潮玩飛鏢 All About Darts。
So, Bob, I have a question for you. I understand that you started the North American Professional Dart Alliance together with a group of dart enthusiasts in around 80s. And what happens what happens in the meantime until you rebring, or I would say reborn this Dart Alliance in the meanwhile?
Well, actually, the backbone, I guess you could say, for the original attempt was a fellow by the name of Ray Chesney, and everything was going along quite well. And then he come down with cancer and passed away.
I see.
But there was I was still traveling extensively and didn't have the time to stay focused, or my goals were sort of different than trying to play. I was more interested in playing the actual sport.
Mm-hmm.
But he passed away, and nobody else took up the, I guess you could baton to carry it on. So, like I say, when I started back playing again about 2005, 2006, I think it was, and it's just sort of progression that said, well, this is something that I was firmly supportive back then. So that's why I sort of am attempting to bring it back and make it move forward.
Wow, that's very impressive, and it's a very very kind act that you're doing for the dart community out there. And Bob, I understand that you start playing for in the 70s and 80s. What was the community like? Is it easy to get funding and sponsors back then in comparison to now?
Well, actually, for the dart players now seem to have more of an opportunity to get sponsors. There's back when I was traveling, there was very few individuals that actually had sponsorship in North America. There was probably maybe 4 or 5 in Canada, and I would say maybe at the most 20 across the United States. But nowadays, because of the Asian influx of into the market in North America, that there is quite a large number of individuals that are able to pick up sponsorship of different levels.
So the market is more open up right now for people who would seriously want to consider to play darts in a semi-professional manner or even professional manner. Is that right?
Yeah, in North America there is more avenue, but like I say, even with the sponsorship that's out there, there's very, very few that could approach it on a full-time basis.
It's a hard life, and they must expect that.
Well, it's like anything; you have to pay your dues, and as you progress or improve in your sport, obviously sponsors will come to you. I was surprised myself within 2 years of me coming back from playing darts. I had 2 Japanese companies approach me for sponsorship, but I had been out of the game for over 15 years.
Wow, congratulations. So what are the 2 companies that are currently sponsoring you right now?
Well, the 2 major companies is L-Style, which is a flight shaft manufacturer, and Monster Barrel darts. And both of them, like I say, they're both from Japan.
Yeah, that's right. And it's a very fond brand that has been well welcomed by the Asian community, and as well as right now by the North American community in terms of the barrel design, and as well as the flight design and whatsoever.
The question that begs to be asked, Bob, is what brought you back to darts?
Okay, well, that's my son who was born in England in, I believe it was 82. He never really saw me compete at a top level or even close to the top level. And so he picked up the sport when he started throwing darts when he was 3 years old. But I feel he has actually a smoother throw than I do. That he doesn't have the drive like I do, like competitiveness, I guess you could say. Mind you, in the last 2 years, he's improving quite a bit. But anyways, it was through him wanting me to go to a tournament where the Professional Dart Corporation had one in Kitchener, the PDC, and I went there just to watch, and I met a lot of the dart players that I had played against back in the 80s were there, and they said, "Oh, you got to come back, And my son sort of within a month, I guess, or shortly afterwards, I was in Chicago at my first competition in, like you say, over 15, 16 years. And,
wow.
One thing progressed to another, and I had some success right away, and then very quickly, of course, back into the saddle, I guess, of traveling for darts.
Well, you always were a great player, Bob, and welcome back anyway. We're so pleased to have you back.
Well, like I say, I'm enjoying it. At times it can be very frustrating because competing at the same level that I did back in the 80s is a lot more difficult now because
it's harder, isn't it? The older you get, the harder it is to maintain that level. And then the other thing too is that everybody brings their best darts when they play against somebody like you.
That's for sure. They always have a tendency to if they have any self-confidence whatsoever, they seem to bring their A game, I guess.
Yep,
Tiger
that's
Woods
right.
would say they bring their A game against me.
Yep. I've been there, I've done that.
Okay, let me do a bit of translation for our Chinese listeners out there. 正如阿 Bob 頭先所講啦，其實咧，我之前問過一個問題咧，就係其實喺北美洲呢邊啊，喺北美洲呢邊，如果想成為一個專業標手咧，以前同而家有咩分別咧？咁講，咁其實以前嚟講係非常之難度高啦。正如我之前所講過啦，其實只係有少數嘅 brand 係會 sponsor。咁去到時至今日嚟講咧，係會比較容易。以前咧，其實專業嘅標手，即係我哋換句話講係半專業嘅標手咧，佢會 travel from 一個地方去另一個地方咧，去參加飛標運動或者飛標比賽嘅人咧，其實唔多嘅。喺70、80年代嚟講咧，約莫加拿大咧只係得4至5個啲類型嘅標手啦。咁而喺美國咧更加少，更加多，會多少少啦，約莫係20個左右。咁呢個就係北美洲當其時一個飛標嘅社區咧發生緊嘅嘢啦。因為大部分嘅飛標專業標手咧都會係集居喺歐洲啦，甚至乎英國咁嘅地方。咁但係當然嚟講，時至今日啦。藉住遠標機嘅衍生啦，甚至乎藉住更加多亞洲區咧嘅飛標嘅品牌、飛標用品嘅品牌衍生啦，而令到更加多飛標嘅品牌咧係願意資助飛標手去參加一啲唔同嘅運動，所以喺大約喺我哋叫幾年之前呢，阿波都重新咧投放時間咧喺呢一個飛標運動去參加比賽啦。咁而當佢投放時間喺呢個飛標運動再參加比賽，短短嘅1-2年時間呢，已經有2個品牌咧 approach 咗佢咧，希望佢成為佢贊助標手。咁但係今次好唔同啦，今次咧佢並唔需要好似之前 Unicorn 咁樣咧留守喺英國嘅。今次嘅規條咧係會比較寬鬆。咁而呢2個品牌咧就包括咗嚟自日本嘅 Monster 啦，同埋嚟自日本嘅 L Style。咁喺短短呢段時間裏邊嚟講咧，頭先阿 Peter 都有問過個問題啦，究竟乜嘢令到阿 Bob 放低咗飛標一個15年嘅時間，而重新 pick up 起呢樣嘢咧？原來因為阿 Bob 嘅仔仔嘅，佢仔仔咧1982年出世啦，喺英國嘅地方。咁喺咁多年裏邊嚟講咧，佢仔仔係冇見過阿 Bob 咧參加一啲大型嘅比賽，甚至乎嚟講咧唔知道阿 Bob 參加比賽嘅時候嘅英姿，但係咧佢仔仔咧對飛鏢呢樣嘢非常之有天分，甚至乎嚟講咧，正如阿 Bob 講咧，佢發每一支飛鏢嗰個速度啦，同埋嗰個柔軟度咧係比自己更加好嘅。喺3歲嘅時間咧，阿 Bob 嘅仔仔咧已經開始參加呢個飛鏢嘅運動啦，甚至乎嚟講咧，已經係同3支飛鏢啦，同埋個標板咧成為朋友。咁而家10幾歲嘅時間咧，已經係參加緊一啲嘅比賽。而喺幾年前呢，阿 Bob 咧就係因為帶住仔仔咧去參加一個喺安省南部嘅一個比賽咧，而從而咧重新同一班80年代佢一啲飛鏢嘅戰友咧重新遇上。而當其時咧就係因為咁嘅原因咧，佢自己想重新踏入飛鏢壇，更加最主要一環咧係因為佢仔仔咧好想見到咧佢喺飛鏢 比賽裏邊嚟講嘅英姿，同埋好想見到爹哋可以贏到比賽嗰一個嘅 moment， 就係咁樣樣。佢喺短短由嗰一刻開始1個月嘅時間咧，重新咧去參加到比賽啦。咁先咧就去到芝加哥啦，等等唔同嘅地方啦。咁今時今日咧，佢已經係全職嘅時間咧，係投放咗喺飛鏢呢個運動裏邊嚟講咧，作為發展。咁而每一年嚟講咧，佢亦都去好多唔同嘅地方。So Bob, right now you are doing darts full time?
Well, actually, like I had my heating business, which I sold 2 years ago. So being retired, I have more time. But I mean, I'm not traveling any more than I did before. Really, it's just
really.
It's more relaxing in between. You don't have to rush and service the customers and stuff like that.
I see.
As a dart player, what is the requirement in order to join the NAPDA, Bob? And how much is the membership?
Well, actually, the North American Professional Dart Alliance is there for the voice of all dart players. It doesn't necessarily be just strictly professionals. We are looking at different avenues of trying to promote the game at all levels. To anybody that wishes to join, they just need to go to the website. It's napda.net and pull up the membership application, fill it out, and send in the membership fee, and they get a crest. There's a small package that we put together right now. We're trying to expand on different items to add with the membership application, but currently that's the steps necessary for any individual that wishes to join.
Canadian Chinese Radio Jet Card Special.
O'Connor Dental Care 全科牙醫服務緊急護理美白種牙箍牙專家，憑質素卡享9折，地址1871號 O'Connor Drive， 電話416-759-0895。
For all your dental needs plus savings on denture whitening braces and wisdom tooth extraction, visit O'Connor Dental Care, 1871 O'Connor Drive, Toronto, 416-759-0895.
Tikka 印度美食美味燒雞、傳統咖喱、燒薄餅，食過翻尋味，另有純素食食譜，地址喺6001號14街，電話905-2016-767，質素卡享有85折優惠。
Tikka Indian Delight at 6001 14th Avenue, Markham, 905-201-6767. Jitsu Card 15% off.
質素卡申請及查詢電話416-496-9633。華語電台着數吧，一卡制手冇錯過。
潮玩飛鏢 All About Darts。
How much is the membership, Bob?
It's $50 for the year.
Wow, that's very low in comparison.
Well, it's if you talk to the players in the U.S., that's a lot. If any club or league that most people join, where the sport is being promoted on a more wide, like a national basis, that's a very, very inexpensive membership. That's for sure.
What are the countries members of the North American Professional Dart Players? Countries? What other countries are members?
Well, it's everything that is North American, including the Bahamas, a number of the islands, Mexico, Canada, U.S. There, I think. I know it's over a dozen different countries are part of North America.
As long as they're located in North America, then they're qualified as
That's
so,
right. Then you can join as a member. Yes.
OK， 正如阿 Bob 所講咧，佢阿邦頭先問過阿 Bob 啦，其實如果一班飛鏢手咧想參加或者想加入呢一個 North America 嘅 Professional Dart Alliance 北美洲飛鏢專業聯會咧，其實可以點樣加入咧？其實原來好簡單嘅啫喎，大家只需要上去 www.napda.net download 個 application form 填妥，跟住然後電郵翻俾呢一個專業聯會咧，附上呢個50蚊嘅年費咧，咁就已經可以成為啲 NAPDA 嘅專業會員啦。 咁之後你就會有一個章咧，你可以擺喺你件衫上邊啦。咁而裏邊嚟講咧，唔係一定要全職或者半業餘性質參加呢個飛鏢比賽嘅朋友先去參加嘅。其實只需要你對飛鏢有熱誠，而又想成為呢個聯會嘅一份子咧，你都可以加入呢個聯會嘅。
Bob, what I'd like to do now is to sort of look at the beginning dart players and use your experience to give them some advice. You're going to the Buckeye Open tournament in Columbus, Ohio in a few days. So how do you prepare for a major tournament like that?
Well, any tournament that I went to, whether it's North American or international, what I would do is look at the format that's being played and put my practice routine into the same format that that you're going to compete in. Now, even like you say, if you're playing on a Friday night mixed doubles league or something like that, and everything is 501, so you practice the 501 game. But if different leagues offer different competitions as far as there's 501 cricket, and I know there's some other match competitions that offer different games, but I'm not sure exactly which ones. But if, like you say, internationally, whenever I've traveled internationally, if it's a long format, like say best of 5 games, best of 15 sets, I'd visualize myself in my own, focus that I'm playing with the top player in the world, and I set a certain goal that's just a little bit hard to reach. You don't want to set goals that are too easily attainable, because then your focus isn't strong enough. So that's how I, improve my game, was always focusing on the next event that I'm playing in, and put my practice routine around that format.
Wow, that's very important. Let me do a translation for our Chinese listeners out there. 頭先咧，阿 Peter 問咗阿 Bob 一個問題咧，就係究竟佢作為一個專業嘅標手，佢係點樣去練習飛鏢嘅咧？例如譬如話啱啱佢參加完2014年嘅 Buckeye Open 喺 Ohio 嗰邊啦。咁阿 Bob 咧就話咧，佢其實嘅心得係咩嘢咧？就係話佢知道嚟緊佢要參加咩比賽咧，佢會先去研究一下嗰一個比賽 format， 嗰個比賽入邊會玩嘅每一 part 嘅 game。咁而裏邊嚟講咧，佢練習咧，佢就會專注練習嗰一個比賽嘅模式，而等自己熟習咗。例如嗰個比賽可能只係得501。加 cricket 嘅，咁佢就會主力嚟講咧，佢會練啲兩樣嘢，而令到自己熟習得到，而到時咧去比賽嘅時候咧，佢嗰個練習或者佢個 pattern 咧，就已經係注入咗個模式，咁然後到下一個比賽咧，佢亦都會重新去練習咧，專注喺嗰個比賽 format 嗰個練習嘅。
Well, one other thing too, you mentioned that for the young beginner dart player is to have fun in the sport. If there was one other thing you could tell a young dart player that's looking forward to a dart career, what else would you tell them? The one most important thing for them to do?
No, it's keep everything simple. When you're practicing by yourself, when you're practicing with other people, that's one thing. But for individuals to really improve, is to keep things simple in your practice routines.
Could you give us an example of that, Bob?
Sorry?
Could you give us an example of that, how you keep things simple when you're practicing?
Well, like for me, I'll go through the 3 steps that I do for whenever I'm practicing by myself. The first thing I do is I'll just shoot numbers 1 through 20, single only, no triple, no double, no miss, or I go back and start over. So it makes you focus. Now, for a young player starting out, what he could do is throw until he goes 1 through 20, keep track of how many darts he's throwing. The next time he does it, he wants to do it less and get your lowest number for the week. Okay, that's your best round. If you can go 1 through 20, then you're at a level where you can compete almost anywhere. But in most cases, the beginning player, he loses focus after he throws the darts. He gets frustrated, and the whole idea is throw at the target. Don't get frustrated if you get missed. And the second routine I'll do is I'll start out with 10 points, which means double 5. You hit the 5, if you have a 1, double 2. If you don't hit it, you take 1 point off, so your next number is 9. Again, now you have to focus on a single number, so 1, double 4. If you hit it, you add 10 points. So if you take the 9 out, you got 19, which means you still have to hit a single number, which is a 3, double 8. and so forth until you miss 10 times. And say you hit the doubles and get up to, say, 50, and you miss 50, okay, that's your high point. Next time you do that routine, see if you can get past 50.
Okay.
The simple routines.
I see. That's very interesting. It actually echo with what Peter and Bong have always been telling us. Okay， 原來頭先阿 Peter 咧就問阿 Bob 咧，究竟啊佢其實點樣練習嘅咧？可唔可以俾一班我哋比較新進嘅飛鏢手啦，或者一啲飛鏢玩家咧，知道佢點樣練習嘅咧？咁原來咧，阿 Bob 做緊嘢咧非常之簡單，亦都係咧 ongoing 咧 Peter 咧同阿 Bong 咧喺我哋呢個潮玩飛鏢環節潮玩飛鏢嘅節目裏邊嚟講咧，一路提醒住大家嘅第一樣嘢，阿Bob 會做嘅咧就係向1至到20進發，即係換句話講咧，每一次嚟講咧，佢會 focus 喺1至到20嘅單分區，而讓自己嚟講咧，每一支標咧係可以掂得到啲位置。當佢完成咗呢個叫 around the clock 嘅一個玩法之後嚟講咧，佢就會再進發到去下一 part 叫2分區同埋3分區嘅。不過最重要嗰環嚟講咧，佢話咧每一節嚟講咧，必須咧要統計一下究竟自己用咗幾多支標先可以完成1至20嘅單分區，又或者1至20嘅雙分區，甚至乎1至20嘅三分區。因為咧每一次嚟講練習咧，都希望嗰個總標數咧係可以越嚟越少。只要佢越嚟越少嚟講咧，亦都代表住咧你嘅進步咧，亦都係大大增加嘅。咁當然嚟講啦，佢亦都寄予一樣嘢嚟講咧，就千祈咧唔好猛啊，唔好對於自己掟唔到標板咧而產生一種抗拒感等等。因為好多時嚟講咧，藉住練習咧，自然可以將個掌控性做得高啦，亦都同一時間咧令到咧自己對個標板大大熟習咧，而令到下一次咧會掟得更加好。咁第二樣嘢嚟講咧，佢亦都會做嘅咧，就係佢會先定咗一啲 number， 而令到自己咧每一次嚟講咧，用一啲好短好少嘅標數咧，係可以完成到自己斷定嘅 number。而每一次嚟講咧，亦都會集低自己每一次用咗幾多支標啦，用咗幾多下啦，幾多 round 咧完成嘅 number。藉住呢啲咁嘅統計咧，就讓自己咧睇得到自己進步率啦，同埋喺咩位置咧，佢會掌握得更好、更高。
Bob, you just attended one of the tournaments in the States wherein adult and youth were participating. Can you please explain a little bit further what is this Youth Survivor Tournament?
I'm not quite sure which one tournament you're talking about.
I think it's at the Sea Coast Open 2014.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, the Sea Coast. The tournaments in the States, they normally have probably 7 to 10 different events that you can play in. Usually there's 2 singles, 2 men's doubles, mixed doubles, maybe mixed triples, and then they have a couple of blind draws where you draw from a crowd like you and anybody else that attends the tournaments. And most of those formats that they have in them are either cricket or 501, and they're very short formats, just 2 out of 3 games. Occasionally you will, if it's what they call a BDO event, they will play best of 5 games, but most of the tournaments you travel to in the States are just 2 out of 3 games.
Okay. Is that adults and youth involved in every tournament like this one?
More and more in the States, they are having what they call youth events.
Okay.
That run alongside of the main tournament. But like I say, there's only pockets right now, but it is growing, and that's great to see. Fortunately for Canada, we have a youth program that works extremely well, and they have a national championship that they hold every year, which I believe this year is going to be held in St. Catharines this year.
Yeah.
I see. So you were talking about the Canadian youth program. That's I think, as you mentioned, it's really one of a kind. It's very unique around the world, right? Not a lot of places will offer something like that, right, Bob?
Well, not that I'm aware of. I know they have small pockets here and there in the U.S., but I mean outside of Canada, anyways, on an amateur basis, anyways, there really isn't an organized national youth program that I'm aware of.
Wow. That's very encouraging。原來咧，阿 Bob 所講，正如阿 Bob 頭先講啦，其實咧加拿大咧，其中有一樣嘢咧非常之可貴嘅，尤其是呢個年青飛鏢嘅 program， 年青飛鏢手嘅 program， 因為原來咧亦都係全世界裏邊嚟講，其中一個非常之少數嘅地方咧係有呢一樣嘢 available， 係讓一班年青人咧可以進入呢個飛鏢運動啦，兼且咧得到一啲資助啦，得到啲 support 啦，得到一個完善嘅 training， 而投放時間喺呢一個嘅運動裏邊嚟講嘅。咁其實咧今日咧好多謝阿 Bob 咧接受我哋訪問啦。Thank you Bob for sharing your experience and your passion about darts with us today. I personally have learned a lot from you, from your history, from what you have witnessed, and I'm sure that with your contribution together with Peter and Bong, the dart community is going to grow more. It will blossom more, right, gentlemen?
Yes.
Good luck, Bob, and thank you so much for participating today.
Good luck, Bob, to your Buckeye Open tournament in Columbus, Ohio.
Anyway, thank you, and it was my pleasure to be a part of the program.
Thank you so much, Bob, and we'll talk to you next season.
Yes, we
Yes,
certainly
thank you
will.
very much, Bob.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
華語電台着數多，
一卡在手冇錯過。
Canadian Chinese Radio Jet to Card Special.
O'Connor Dental Care 全科牙醫服務緊急護理美白種牙箍牙專家，憑質素卡向9折，地址1871號 O'Connor Drive， 電話416-759-0895。
For all your dental needs plus savings on denture whitening braces and wisdom tooth extraction, visit O'Connor Dental Care, 1871 O'Connor Drive, Toronto, 416-759-0895.
Tikka 印度美食美味燒雞、傳統咖喱、燒薄餅，食過翻尋味。另有純素食食譜，地址喺6001號14街，電話905-2016-767，張數卡享有85折優惠。
Tikka Indian Delight at 6001 14th Avenue, Markham, 905-201-6767. Jitsu Card 15% off.
質素卡申請及查詢電話416-496-9633。華語電台着數多，一卡在手冇錯過。
潮玩飛鏢 All About Darts。彼得教室之飛鏢101 Darts 101 by Mentor Peter。
好啦，又嚟到新一集嘅 Dart 101 by Mentor Peter. So, Peter, you're going to continue on the practice drill from last week, right?
Yes, I will, and this is particularly relevant to the soft-tip dart players. The steel-tip players, because of necessity, have to learn the out combinations, but often the soft-tip dart players rely on the machine to tell them what to shoot for, and that is a mistake. Both the soft-tip and the steel-tip players should learn their out combination. What it is that when you have built your rhythm into your dart throw, any interruption of that rhythm is usually detrimental to your accuracy. It lowers your accuracy. So therefore, knowing instinctively what you have left is an advantage. The thing is that if you are unsure of what you're throwing at, that hesitation, that unsureness, dramatically drops the chances of getting what you're aiming for. Even in soft tip, just looking at the top of the board to check on what you have left or what you should shoot for requires you to shift your concentration and your focus from the actual target to the board and then back again. That interferes with both your focus and accuracy, and you're sure to have a lower score than you would normally have if you knew with conviction what to shoot for without looking or checking with anybody. How to improve in practice? Well, that's coming next.
正如 Peter 所講啦，今集咧我哋會講其中兩個重要環節咧，就係 outshot 同埋 accuracy 啦。因為上一集我哋提過 stroke 同埋 delivery， 講緊節奏感。咁其實咩為之 outshot 咧？就係當我哋喺個飛鏢板上面嚟講咧，玩無論01啦或者 cricket 咧，我哋要對每一個數字咧嗰個嘅嗰個歸屬感啦，甚至乎嗰個熟悉度咧要高嘅。尤其是當我哋玩01嘅時候咧，好重要一樣嘢咧就係嗰個數學啊！我哋要盡快可以喺個好短時間裏邊嚟講咧，計得到究竟我一支標應該落喺2分區啊、3分區啊或者1分區嘅情況之下，又落喺邊個位置，而可以令到盡快完成到嗰個01嘅 game。咁大部分嘅硬標嘅或者我哋叫 still tip player 啦，一啲硬標嘅標手咧，對呢樣嘢嘅掌拿性咧，或者對呢樣嘢熟悉度咧非常之高。但係去到遠標嘅時候咧，呢一樣嘢咧好多時對一啲遠標手咧就會係一個好大嘅問題。點樣講咧？因為大部分嘅遠標手咧，甚至乎大部分遠標嘅 player 咧，佢哋會留意喺個飛鏢機上邊展示出嚟 number， 就會好相信 number。而每一次咧，當佢哋要落標之前咧，佢會先會睇一睇個 number， 然後先至去發放一支標。咁你試想，如果3支標裏邊，我哋嘅企位啦，我哋其他嘅位置已經純熟到，跟住然後因為要望個標板而失去咗我哋嗰一刻嗰個 concentration， 失去咗我哋嗰一刻嗰一個嘅集中度啊，咁其實咧會令到影響到我哋之前所提過嘅一個叫節奏感。咁所以咧，正如 Peter 所講啦，重要一樣嘢嚟講咧，我哋一定要對啲數字啦，甚至乎標板咧每一個位置咧掌控性高咧，然後先可以咧喺呢個飛鏢運動裏邊嚟講咧，勝贏一籌嘅。
What you should practice at the board is, if you're a still tip player and a beginner, practice your 101 outs. That is within your realm of possibility, and you start off with 101, then start off next throw is 100, the next throw is 99, and go all the way down until you have a 2-dart finish, which is usually 110 in steel tips and 120 in soft tips. Good players should start around the 200 mark, and you have to start thinking at that level to make sure that you have a chance to finish the game with 3 darts when you are shooting round 200. So there's the scores, and that's what you should do. And these practicing is the difference between an average player, a good player, and an exceptional player.
而裏邊嚟講咧 ，Peter 咧亦都開咗幾個數字咧。如果譬如話我哋今日要將呢個標板或者將呢個數字，甚至乎將 outshot 呢一樣嘢 accuracy 呢樣嘢掌控性高咧，其實首先嚟講咧，for 一個飛鏢嘅新手咧，第一個數字要練嘅咧就101，就係話你點樣可以喺短時間裏邊越少嘅標數越好，係可以將呢個101越盡快完成得到咧。咁跟住然後下一 round 當你對啲101數字咧已經集中到，甚至乎已經掌控性高嘅時候咧，咁你就可以去到下一 round 就係200嘅分數。咁當每一次我哋對呢個數字敏感度大咗，無論係硬標或者軟標嘅標手，當佢哋對呢個數字大咗之後咧，咁每一次咧我哋出去比賽，甚至乎同唔同嘅人競技嘅時候咧，玩01或者 cricket 嘅 game 咧，就會掌拿性高，同埋咧令到我哋節奏感咧唔會往往因為我哋唔記得咗個數字，或者唔記得咗我哋仲爭幾多分咧而失去咗個節奏感嘅。咁今集嘅 Dart 101咧就到呢度為止。下一集 Peter 將會 round up 究竟佢啲 practice 第3 part 嘅嘢 focus and concentration 點樣可以掌拿得到咧？記住留意收聽啦。
潮玩飛鏢 All About Darts。
好啦，又嚟到新一集嘅潮玩飛鏢嘅飛鏢資訊站咯。今個禮拜究竟阿邦有啲咩同我哋 update 呢？ So 邦 ，What news are you updating us this week?
Everyone is invited to attend the 10,000 Electronic Darts Tournament, the Johnny Key 7th Annual Toys for Tots, at Towers Bar, Candlewood Suites, 9 Bowman Mills Road, Pennsylvania, USA. The organization raised about $31,000 last year, and in 6 years, they raised about $106,000. Any amount of money of donations accepted. For the darters rate, $72 for single occupancy for the hotel, or $82 double occupancy. The organizer of this event is Johnny Koksinski.
OK，thank you Bong。第一則咧，其實一個喺美國裏邊嚟講咧，每一年咧都會舉行一個活動啦，亦都非常之有意思嘅，因為會聚集咗呢一班北美洲嘅標手咧，為一班小朋友咧做多一點事，咁就係希望可以籌募多啲費用啦，買一啲玩具啦，俾一啲真真正正需要嘅小朋友。呢個活動咧叫 Johnny K's 7th Annual 嘅 Toys for Tots 呢個 event。咁而裏邊嚟講咧，今年已經係第7年舉行啦。之前嗰6年咧，總共咧籌募到106000蚊左右嘅費用咧，係令到小朋友係可以得到受惠啦，而得到一啲玩具咁樣樣啦。而今年嘅籌款目標咧就31000蚊。據資料顯示咧，去到呢一刻咧已經籌到差唔多2萬蚊美金㗎啦。咁就會今個禮拜舉行啦，就會喺 Pennsylvania 嗰邊嘅。咁個酒店嘅地址咧就 Candlewood Suite。如果大家想知道更加多嘅資料咧，係可以上到 johnnykdarts.com johnnykdarts.com 可以知道更加多嘅資料。如果大家未能夠咧親身咧去到呢個嘅籌款活動嗰參加啲飛鏢比賽咧，亦都可以上到呢個網站咧去捐輸一下，去支持一下呢個咁有心嘅殿堂級嘅飛鏢手 Johnny K 嘅。So what's next, Bong?
December 12, Omimi Legion 497 is finally open for business. Friday night drawn doubles dart tournament every second Friday of the month until June 2015. Entry fee is only $10. Registration starts at 7:45 p.m. Matches starts at 8 o'clock. Remember the Omimi Legion 497, Kawarthas Lakes, Ontario.
Wow, thank you, Bong。如果大家咧喺啲 Omimi Legion 嗰頭住嘅咧，就非常之好嘅 news 啦。因為咧 Omimi Legion 嘅497嗰邊咧就開始咧就有呢個飛鏢嘅比賽啦。逢禮拜5晚咁就會有定期嘅雙人同埋單人嘅飛鏢比賽啦。就係 every second Friday of the month 咧，佢將會舉行嘅。咁直至到6月2015年。咁而每一次嚟講咧，參加費用就10蚊，7點45分就會開始。有需要知道更加多嘅資料，可以打電話嚟我哋電台，又或者上到嚟逢禮拜4啦，上到嚟 Multicultural Dart Association 啦，同我幫攞更加多嘅資料就更加簡單啦。
潮玩飛鏢 All About Darts。
好啦，又嚟到今集潮玩飛鏢 All About Darts 嘅尾聲啦，又係送獎品嘅時間咯。咁答啱呢個題目嘅朋友呢，將會呢可以讀得一套呢由 Phoenix 遠標機公司送出嘅遠標，價值30蚊嘅。咁等我問下邦究竟有咩問題先。So it's about time for us to give out some prizes for our listeners this week, and the lucky winner who got the right answer for the question is going to win a set of soft tip darts from Phoenix Enterprise, and the value is $30. So what question are you asking this week, Bong?
Who is the organizer of this event, the Johnny Key 7th Annual Toys for Tots Tournament in Pennsylvania, USA?
Wow, that's a very easy question, Bong. You're really giving away. 好啦，今個禮拜嘅問題咧，當然我哋要支持一啲籌款嘅活動啦。咁今個禮拜嘅問題咧，亦都同呢一個活動有關嘅。大家都知道啦，嚟緊10月5號到7號咧，喺美國 Pennsylvania 咧，將會舉行一個飛鏢籌款嘅活動咧，係幫一班標手咧去籌募一個費用咧，去幫一啲有需要嘅小朋友，令到更加多小朋友可以 enjoy 到呢個聖誕節嘅氣氛，可以得到玩具嘅。咁究竟呢個活動嗰個籌委委員，嗰個最主要嘅籌委委員係邊位咧？咁呢個活動咧就叫 Johnny K's 7th Annual Toys for Tots 嘅呢個 event 嘅主力嗰個籌委委員叫咩名咧？頭先咧喺呢個 event 嘅名嗰度咧，喺呢個活動嘅名字都已經出現過噶啦。咁你知道答案咧，麻煩咧你電郵嚟 cchineseradio@gmail.com。咁我哋到時咧下個禮拜咧，我就將會 announce 究竟邊個可以得到呢套遠標啦。咁同一時間咧，我哋亦都會有專人通知你嘅。好，今個禮拜咧就到咁上下，下個禮拜我哋繼續潮玩飛鏢。Thank you so much, Bong, tonight.
Thank you very much.
We'll talk more next week. I know that we're going to talk with someone from Hong Kong next week, right, Bong?
Yes.
Okay, we know who that is. Okay,
That's right.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you very much for everyone.
Thank you.
潮玩飛鏢 All About Darts。